Okay, I started recording. It's June 16th, 2021. It's a CI subgroup of SIG Node. Hello, everybody. This is our Wednesday time. Last time it was Thursday time, and we will keep Thursday once a month unless we will see that it's widely popular and we need to do it more often. First topic, I think, I don't know who added it, feature versus not feature. Node, not a feature. So there is a suggestion that we have this pattern in the test tags that we create node feature and then say node feature foo, and then sometimes it will be node alpha feature or node beta feature with the same name. Plus, we always keep feature foo as an additional tag. And the reason for that is we have a special dashboard for alpha features specifically, where we enable all alpha features and only run them there. We also have other dashboard for what is it? For features specifically. So I don't think we run features on the node conformance. So that makes it, I mean, it's really hard to understand how to promote features and like what will every node do. And it's a little bit of duplication. So suggestion is that you need to do just feature something and then indicate alpha or beta stage with additional tag. I think it was just, yeah. Milana suggested to discuss that. So what I did before I was looking into that, I ran some analysis on, you know, you can run Ginkgo and just dump the list of tests. So I analyzed the tags out of this output, and we don't have many features actually in Node, like most of the Node features. My main question was always, do we want to keep feature tag after feature is G8, or we want to just remove the feature tag completely? And this is the main question for me. I didn't find a solution like and resolve it quickly, so I didn't proceed with that. But I would be interested to hear your opinion and maybe some thoughts about it.
Hey, sorry I'm late. At least for the last node feature that I worked on, which was like adding a new field to the pod spec, I think I used a feature tag and not a node feature tag for that one. I understand the like value of being able to, like, for example, select all node features sort of thing for E2E tests, but perhaps there are like better ways we can do that. For example, like looking at, you know, test tagged SIG Node as opposed to node feature. I am generally not in favor, I think, of having our own like node tags because it just adds a lot of complexity and they're not super well documented in terms of what they mean. So
I think prefix node is, I don't think we need it. Maybe there are some cases when it's SIG storage, but it's not feature, but I don't think it's a case any longer. I didn't find any examples. So in your particular feature, I think once it's G8, we can just remove the feature tag from a test, right? It will be just regular test for, and just regular features that regular test that doesn't need to be indicated by feature, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's G8, then we should always be supporting it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if any feature will be like, do we need to keep feature tag after G8 ever? Because I found a few examples, I believe, when feature was like, feature tag is still present even though it's G8. Do we need to keep it ever? Like, do we care?
Honestly, I think in my experience going through a lot of this stuff, I think it's just like the CI is kind of, it's not the first thing on people's minds and people forget. They're like, oh, I've GA'd the feature, and then they don't go back to like update, for example, the test tags or to update the CI jobs. And I think that that is part of the issue. It's not necessarily that people are deliberately like trying to have them in separate tests. It's that people just forgot to go and update the test to like add them to the full suite.
Yeah, sorry for the question. Is the tags we are talking about and other feature flags are like the one I posted in the chat, because I was not completely sure I was on the same page. I posted an example which is dear to me because it's alpha, so then the serial lane doesn't run the CPU manager test. And when we were talking about flags, this is what I was thinking about, but I'm not sure is the right thing.
I think one optimization this issue suggests is to remove node alpha feature CPU manager and instead just say alpha in brackets.
Okay. Well, I'm not really. I mean, I'm not deep enough in those things, so it works for me. The only other point I would like to raise, which is probably tangential, but still, is that we need to run probably all the tests and make sure the tags are up to date, because, for example, CPU manager is beta, so it's not alpha, which should be like what Elana said, if I understood correctly, pretty much.
Yeah, there's like, and I was looking at, for example, like I didn't get a chance to add the probe stuff to periodics. It's only in like a pull request thing right now. So in order for that to graduate to beta, it's got to be running in periodics and so on. So I think that Sergey, one of the things that I've been encouraging internally is for us to like take sort of, I guess, like an inventory of all of the stuff that we want to test in cryo and then try to figure out an action plan for all of those jobs. Do we have something like that for all of SIG Node? Because we've got so many jobs. I know, for example, we have that, what was it, like the node conformance duplicate test that's like failing, and that I suggested we remove because it's failing. Tim's was like, no, we might be missing some tests. But as far as I could tell, we weren't missing any tests. So like, do we want to do that? Would that be too much work?
No, it's not that many tests actually. When we started this group, Victor was trying to do that, and then I was looking into that, and you quickly realize that it's not too many. Just, I mean, it's a reasonable amount, and I think I understand all the test grids, like what they're doing, and so, except node conformance. Node conformance is still a mystery for me. Like even after reading all the documents, I still don't understand how node conformance is different from all other non-alpha features. Like everything we test is supposed to be used for conformance of node. Like that said, we may do better job of describing jobs. So maybe if you can add description for all the test grid jobs, it may help us understand how it works and what's supposed to go where.
Regarding the node conformance, is like, if I understand correctly, once you move the feature to J, you also should move end-to-end test for this feature to conformance test. So like, and it's like,
so
should
we have
always be stable without flakiness. So
we have the next item on the agenda is about this confusion. So are we done with node feature versus feature? Do we want to move into that one?
So what I can do, I can, on this issue, just propose a plan, like how to migrate, and if everybody okay with that, we can execute.
I would be very happy to see your plan.
Okay.
Action for Sergey. So for node conformance versus conformance, I threw that one on the agenda because we had a question about it in one of the PRs, and I opened a thread and got some feedback on the thread in the Kate's conformance channel on Slack. So
Artem, to your point, whether any feature will become conformant, I have only one example in my mind when test is not conformance, even though it's G8 feature, and such test will take a dependency on log messages. Like if you if you took a dependency on specific log message that's supposed to be outputted, or event that's supposed to be produced, then likely it's not conformance. We wouldn't call it such, but I don't think anybody writing this test, like nobody take a dependency on something that may change. Does anybody know other examples when node conformance has any meaning comparing
Yes.
to others?
This is the thing that I wanted to discuss. So conformance has a very narrow view, like in terms of what a conformance test tests. And conformance tests are specifically for functionality in the Kubernetes API. If it's not a thing in the API, there should not generally be conformance tests for it. And so like there's a bunch of things that are like not in the Kubernetes API that are, for example, for SIG Node in say the CRI API. And so what do we do about those things when we want to promote things to GA? Like we need to ensure that various different container runtimes are meeting some sort of conformance definition. So my understanding from the discussion on Slack, which I linked there, is that like obviously not everything is going to be eligible for a conformance test. So there are some things that while they are not eligible for a conformance test, we need to ensure that all of the container runtimes are conformant with them. And so node conformance is specifically for container runtime conformance, like CRI conformance. That was my understanding from the discussion in Slack. And this is not documented well anywhere. And I genuinely had no idea until I asked DIMS. So I think that like probably an action for that one is we need to document it somewhere. We probably need some guidelines in terms of like what is in node conformance that is not in like conformance, and like how to determine between like regular test, node conformance test, feature test. Like we don't have any node specific guidelines for this right now. So I think a lot of this is the documentation problem. Like nobody wrote down what any of these things mean, and therefore like nobody's really quite sure. But I think it's a solvable problem. I don't think that we should, given my understanding from that Slack thread, be getting rid of node conformance in the same way we should be getting rid of node feature. It like seems to have a useful purpose, but
can you explain again what API is supposed to be testing? Is it only CRI? Because I think I saw node conformance for non-CRI features.
I mean, that might have been a mistake. And like that's something that we should have like actual documentation, like detailing and setting a policy for that. But my understanding is like, it is certainly the case that conformance is only applicable to a very limited set of features. And so given that, there are still some things in Node that we need to have node conformance tests on to ensure like consistency between different CRIs. And so that's where that comes in.
So for example, all the probe tests, I think they are not conformance, and probe is not CRI related. At least, I mean, not directly. Is it a mistake, or is just another API that we need to support? And if it's another API that we need to support as node conformance, then like pretty much every test executes some sort of API.
Well, yes and no, right?
That's my
probes are specifically designed. Probes are defined in a Kubernetes API spec, right? Like an end user interacts with the Kubernetes API and does things with a probe. So I would argue those should probably be conformance tests, not node conformance tests. But for example, if we add, say, like node memory swap, and we change the CRI API, and we have some like conformance tests that show that like we are able to, in the kubelet, set like swap allocation for memory for like, that's not going to be a conformance test because there's nothing in the Kubernetes API that lets you do that, but that would be a node conformance test because it's in the CRI.
And how do they do in SIG network, for instance? Do they have like conformance for the CNI?
I don't know how SIG network does it.
Because maybe we can just like look at what other SIGs do and be more consistent.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a great idea, is try to get inspiration from other SIGs. And for example, I don't know what SIG storage does either.
Yeah, I think node conformance was specifically done for Node, and maybe it's related to this virtual kubelet effort, but I don't know. There is a document linked, like I think Lantau or maybe Yuju created before, explaining node conformance motivation, but motivation is, yeah, if you limit it to CRI, it makes sense to me. if we expand it to like probes and other APIs, and pretty much every test executes one of the APIs. So every test is not conformant.
Yeah. That one doesn't make sense to me. So I think that like in the case of, for example, like probe behavior, like I would expect that regardless of, backing Kubernetes distribution, I would expect everything to behave the same way given like a definition of a probe. So to me, that would be a conformance test because that's user facing in the public API.
And most of them are conformance tests. It's just marked as not conformance as well.
Yeah, I think that probably the node conformance, it might just be a convenience selector. Like these are conformance tests that we also want to make sure that we're running on every API. Like that may have been why those were pulled in which case there's a question of should be rerunning all of just the regular conformance tests on each CRI as well. Like
I think not conformance is also
or node conformance.
Yeah, not conformance also running as part of pre-submits, right? That's one of the differences.
Yeah, I don't know where I think the conformance ones are just periodics, right?
Yeah, but not conformance, I believe it's part of pre-submits. I think we only run out of SIG Node end-to-end tests, we only run not conformance.
Yeah, and I think that's in part because we want to make sure that, whether it's like Docker shim versus container D or container D versus cryo or whatever, that we're not breaking things. Yeah, I think we probably need to get more historic backgrounds. Sergey, how do you feel about this? We might want to take to a wider SIG node because I don't think we have the full audience for this.
And we already discussed it before on SIG node. I can dug the discussion, yeah, and pretty much the same. It was the same idea. So we have this node conformance. We just need to document it, and like whenever we try to start documenting it, it's running away. Like the idea of it is not very clear. So I don't remember who was the last person trying to document it. Do you feel? Yeah, I think it's a good idea to start looking at it. So I can bring all the nodes from past meetings to next time, and then we can discuss what to do.
That would be awesome.
Will it be okay? Perfect.
And
okay.
Ilana, would it make sense to have like a CRY conformance test and maybe also a kubelet conformance test? Because I can understand when people want to do like alternate implementation of something, they want to see which test they need to conform to.
I don't think so. Currently, like the only supported kubelet is the kubelet because it's the only thing that can do all of the things that the kubelet can do. I don't think that we're in the business of trying to allow people to be swapping in alternate kubelets. So
there is a virtual kubelet, right?
Yeah, there's a virtual kubelet, but that's not why those things exist. I think the node conformance tests are specifically for the container runtimes because those are swappable.
Okay, so maybe we should like rename them to CRY conformance.
Yeah, I
think it is a very good idea.
Fair.
I think it will benefit, like it will increase understanding of this a lot.
Yeah, if it's just for the CRI, calling them CRI conformance, I would be in favor.
But then we may need to have like config conformance, kubelet config conformance.
I don't think so.
Just unit test.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just a unit test.
Okay. Do you want to speak about bug scrub?
Yes, bug scrub. It's happening next week. Which is amazing. It's only in a week from now because we're gonna start on. It's gonna start Wednesday my time because we're going around the globe and we need more volunteers. Currently, we have no one signed up to be mentors, so I'm going to make everybody who is not an approver in the reviewer approver column be a mentor. I mean, you're volunteering to help out. Like, that is the goal of mentors. The approvers column was mostly just in case people are submitting PRs. Do we have somebody who can ensure it actually merges? And nobody in those columns has merge access. So I am going to suggest that those people help out with mentoring. We really need region captains. So I think there's nobody currently signed up for Europe. And like, you don't have to be available every single hour of the day for 8 hours. That's not the intent. That's why we have 2 of them. You just need to be available both days for most of the day so you can coordinate with your other region captain, just to make sure that there's always someone around, such that if a new person comes, like, you know, you can say, hey, this mentor is in charge while I go to this meeting, or there needs to be somebody making sure that like everybody who's joining for the day can get help. So we don't have anyone signed up for Europe at all. We will need people. Please sign up. And luckily we have a bunch of folks who are signed up to sort of help out. So I'm hopeful that it will be a great event. But yeah, we need people. Please sign up, especially from this group who know what's going on.
Just to understand, so we need to be available both days, like 8 hours, the office hours for EMEA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to be there working on it the whole time. Just hopefully you can dedicate enough time to ensure that like you're delegating to someone and that the event does not go off the rails. And that's mostly the reason that I was requesting that region captains are available for both days, because then a new person doesn't have to like completely go and get their bearings again for day 2.
Okay, I could be a captain if you want. I have Slack access, Zoom if I need in the office during both days. So if you explain what I should do, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Lana, if you can describe a little bit how the process will look, because like I believe everyone familiar with the bootstrap, but I'm not really familiar with such like a long bootstrap with captains and stuff around this.
Yeah, it's mostly just like, so I don't know if folks have been to bug scrubs and other projects before. As far as I'm aware, Kubernetes hasn't run really any large scale ones. So this is maybe a new thing for a lot of people. So we will have a bunch of documentation, which Sergey and I are currently working on. And I'm hoping maybe we can like have it done and out for review by, if not the end of the day, certainly by the end of this week. And like they will tell people, okay, you've never like worked on bugs in Kubernetes before, you've never worked on SIG Node before. Well, here's what you need to do in order to scrub bugs. We need to ensure that issues are still relevant, that they're filed against the correct components, that they're triaged correctly, and so on. And so the goal of having a region captain is just like, that is sort of the event coordinator for the day. And since we're doing this in like all time zones, it can't be me because I can't be up 24/7. So I need some folks to help out. And they're just going to ensure that like, you know, everybody's having a good time and that everybody has something to do and that nobody is stuck. So they're not going to be working with every single person hands-on or anything like that. They're just going to be making sure that like, you know, people know where to go, people are paired up with mentors, people are working on the right things. They're just kind of like the go-to person for the 2-day event for that region.
Yeah, I want to add that Elana is working on setting up triage party. This is like web-based application that just provides views on bugs and by different like categories. So that likely will be separate queues of bugs for every region. So every region will take their own. And I think one of the aspects of it is like for region captain is to ensure that people working on like bugs in that queue. I mean, it's fine to work on any bug, I think, but
yes,
it would be nice to clean up the queue for a specific region. It will be helpful.
Yeah, so the idea is, you know, so triage party will help us split the bugs between regions, so we're not stepping on each other's toes. So that way, for example, you know, we've got about like say 4 mentors per region kind of thing, and we have 3 regions. So that means that we can run triage party in what's called 12-player mode. And so, for example, APAC takes players 1 through 4, EMEA takes players 5 through 9 or whatever it would be. I'm bad at math. 1 through 4, 5 through 8, and then like NASA would take the rest. And then like each region captain would be like, okay, who are the mentors I have today? You know, so-and-so you're responsible for like the player 1 view, so-and-so you're responsible for the player 2 view, and so on and so forth. And that way, like we can kind of just, we don't have people being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to work on, and there's so many bugs, and which should I look at? So basically the problem is that Triage Party actually needs to be hosted somewhere to work. And I have been waiting on working group infra to set one up for me. And it doesn't exist yet. And so basically, like, until it exists, I cannot show you the software that we're going to be using, but it will be quite straightforward. And then it's just going to be like standard, normal, dealing with Kubernetes bugs as we normally deal with them, with some extra documentation to help the newcomers.
Okay, so it's a bit like a Scrum Master, right? You make sure that okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah, just like an event lead, like at any other event. If you're holding a party, you want to make sure that like everybody's got food, everybody's got drink, everybody's having a good time. There's not one person sitting in the corner and they're sad. Everybody participates and has an enjoyable time. So yeah, Sergey, I think, is pulling up the HackMD that we created. So these are some docs that we're hopefully going to merge into the community repo. But if we can't get it into the community repo in time because nobody has a prover there, we will just work out of the HackMD. And this will be our docs for the event. And I was going to clean this up a little bit just to make it for people who are new. There's a lot of text here. So maybe have like the sort of TLDR section and then linking to all of the later things.
Yeah, ultimately we want to close as many bugs as possible that are either not relevant or it's a feature request that may not be interesting or will never be implemented as we think. So there are some recommendations there, some bugs metadata, maybe we can categorize them better. And especially for first contributors, we want to highlight issues that are like suitable for first contributors to address. We have many people who want to help, they don't know how. So like one of the ways to triage the issue is to provide a great instruction how to fix it, even if you don't have time to fix it, you just provide enough instructions. Good issue. And then maybe resolve bugs by either fixing them or providing some documentation. Many bugs can be just addressed as a workaround in our documentation. So this is where you just transition bugs out of Kubernetes and move them to website.
And we also have a categorization issue. So like, I suspect if we look at this, a very large portion of our bugs are going to be filed against the wrong component, a feature request, a support request, and so on and so forth. And so for a lot of those, we can like close them or handle them pretty quickly. Like as far as anything that like is, say, a support request, generally that's not going to be something that SIG Node is going to work on. And a lot of those, if it's like, for example, a support request for an unsupported version of Kubernetes, we can just close that. And if it's a feature request, we can very quickly triage and like say, oh, this is already being worked on in this cap, close. Or if it is a feature request for like a really big thing that would be important, but like, isn't getting attention from the SIG right now, somebody can say, hey, I found this like big thing. We're not talking about it in SIG Node. At the next SIG Node meeting, raise it as a thing. Is anybody like working on this? Is this on roadmaps? Is this visible? So like swap would be an example of something like that kind of sat for a really, really long time and is now being worked on. But like had, this 200 item discussion. There was another bug that I worked on recently that was similar, where it was like 300 people all with like different problems, but very similar symptoms, all being like, I have this bug, I have this bug, I have this bug. And that's completely non-actionable. Like they all have different environments, different versions of Kubernetes, and like just a 2-line description of, oh yeah, this like thing happens, which could happen in like, 10 different ways. So for like something like that, I'd say, close, this is not actionable. We need like an up-to-date bug with your environment on a supported version, and then we can actually, with like logs, and then we can dive in. So yeah, another key thing of a lot of these is probably going to be adding like awaiting more evidence to a lot of these bugs. And if anything has awaiting more evidence on it and people are taking stale labels off of them, we should just be closing them. Like anything that's been open for 6 months with no updates, that is like, there's no reasonable reason why they should still be open. Those get closed. So this will all be in docs. I shouldn't, blab on too long. But this is our goal, is to try to get this 500 issue thing down to something more manageable so we can prioritize what is important, what's not important, are things getting attention, and so on.
We have 458 bugs as of like last week, so it's like 130 bugs per region, right? If my math is correct.
Yeah, and if we split like say 130 bugs across 2 days, that's maybe like 65 bugs a day across 4 people per region, assuming we only get 4. But across 4 people per region, that's, you know, like 15 bugs a person a day. That means, you know, you have like quite a lot of time to work on those bugs, like half an hour a bug or something like that. We're gonna be fine. Hopefully everybody will get a chance to look, and a lot of the bugs you'll be able to close them much faster than that. So for like old things, I definitely see a lot of issues with when I was doing the PR triage initially for like the node wide board. I must have closed at least a dozen PRs where it was like, needs rebase, nothing could be done on it, and like somebody just kept removing the stale label because they're like, but I really want this thing. I was like, that's nice, and I appreciate that, but unless you're willing to actually make the PR mergeable, nothing's gonna happen. So we have to close it. And like, there's no reason in keeping it open on our backlog if it can't be actioned. So making sure things are actionable, that's the key thing. I'm sure that we're probably gonna, I bet we can close at least 100 bugs, not even joking.
Okay, we can go to triage.
Yeah, let's do it.
This time I didn't triage this column. I didn't have time, but we can do it together. Okay, let me close this. Do we have update on serial tests? Like what's going on? Because I didn't follow that.
We had some, which were that we got them running, which was exciting. And the issue that we encountered was that Francesco found that the eviction tests were like timing out after 24 hours or something like that. And they were basically holding up the whole serial job. So we split the eviction tests out into a separate job. So now somebody can figure out why the eviction tests are like, they're probably just blocking forever. Like no test should take 24 hours to run.
Odin figured out. Yeah, there is too low limit on open files. He has a PR ready, which should fix them for good, and then we can fix the actually failing serial test, which to some extent is surprising because some of tests should not, but they do fail. Yeah, and I unfortunately in the last few days I had to work on another bug. And so hopefully I can get back to that as soon as possible.
In general, we can split the work because again, also under Odin pull request regarding increasing the amount of like open file, it's still like the job still has around, I believe, 20 failures or something like this. Like it's a lot of failures. So yeah.
Well, now at least we have the we have the job that we can run on the pull request to see if it actually fixes it, because we didn't have that before. So it was just like merge and pray.
Yeah, exactly. And we have artifacts that it's also give us possibility for debugging.
Okay then. This is cryo serial.
Yeah, so it looks like Odin's been looking at them. I don't know if we want to assign them.
Odin. Okay. It's issues in progress.
Oh,
Same.
these triage accepted too.
Oh yeah.
Got one. other one?
Is it also Odin? Okay, it's fine. Add huge pages and that's not conformance.
Yeah, it exactly is the pull request that I talked about. It's like one of requests to move the feature to J is moving the test under the not conformance.
This one is. I feel like we should be removing the feature tags. And this isn't like the public APIs. So I'm not sure if this should be a conformance test. I think it should be a conformance test, not node conformance.
Yeah, it's already conformance.
Wait, it was all, oh, right, because, like, what?
Yeah, it's all, but I'm surprised that conformance YAML or like whatever is not updated here.
Maybe is verify failing?
It should. Nope.
Doesn't look like it.
Like it failed when Bartosz updated it. So I'm sure like when should it be regenerated, to be honest.
It's supposed to fail.
Yeah, because I feel like these tests should not be, they shouldn't have feature tags anymore because these are GA. And this should probably be like a conformance test, not a node conformance test. But it looks like maybe it is. Oh, but I remember somebody was saying there was some issue with conformance versus node conformance for the things that are in the test E2E underscore node instead of E2E slash node.
Oh.
But I don't remember what
because
exactly
conformance
the
may not pick up all the tests from this folder.
Yeah.
And maybe the case.
So if that's true, then we might need an issue for that. I don't know if there's one filed.
So let's hold on this one. Can Bartosz help with that? Because I also think that it likely can be moved. I don't know. I don't know how it runs. It doesn't need any special environment to run.
It needs nodes that I think have the feature on it. I'm not sure if this is something that needs to be enabled with a sysctl or what exactly, but this is like a weird Linux memory thing. Because we can have Linux only conformance tests. That's fine. That was why I was like, well, shouldn't this be marked Linux only? Like, this is not a thing we can do on Windows. So.
Okay. So let's do waiting for author. Date no stick to the latest. I think it's.
Oh, that's just a dep update.
The program. Wow.
That's a dep update.
Yeah. Branch test images needed. Yeah, it's not SIG Node.
Does it involve any SIG Node images?
It might, but typically it's not us approving it. It's just like generic improvement across all the tests. Skip eviction test on serial test on system D. Is this PR that you've been talking about?
Yeah, that was one of the, so currently we're skipping them now on, I think that one needs an approver. We're skipping them now for the like container D ones, but not in the cryo job. So I think that's why it's failing on the cryo jobs. And then, or maybe this is just for, is it just system D? I can't see what the test is getting changed. I know at some point it was mentioned. There was, yeah, it's the cryo ones. So I think the one comment that I made on that one is I don't know if we need to split that into a separate test for cryo, the same way that we split it for the other ones, the node serial, which I think Dims had also mentioned. I think that the serial ones are running on Docker shim, not container D. So that's also maybe something we need to fix.
Okay, so it just needs approver. I think it's
this one just needs an approver, and I think it's fine to also.
But yeah, follow-ups on that may be interesting. I think we may have some retrospective once we fix serial tests, like to understand what the follow-ups, like all the total follow-ups we need to do after fixing those tests. Francesca, do you think you can come up with the follow-up items?
Yeah, sure. Not can't say when though, but how do we want to? Okay, let's do like this. Put that on me. But how? I mean, tag me there in issue, whatever, or maybe maybe an agenda item could work.
Yeah, I think probably an agenda item. Francesco, I don't think this needs to be done immediately. We could maybe work on this after code freeze and after test freeze. Like, I don't think this is a we need to do this right now sort of thing.
Yeah, just making you all aware that unfortunately, all constant stream of issues, so limited time.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I think that it's fine to punt on this one. We don't need to do this right now. It's something that we should try to have a plan for eventually.
Okay. And with that, I want to finish that part. Do you want to go to bug triage? Or we only have 10 minutes left. That's why I'm thinking, like, should we just call it a day?
Let me look at the other node board. I haven't dragged things on it, so I don't know if there's anything to triage. Looks like there's